Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. And I'm so glad that you've joined us this morning because we have so much breaking news, so many stories to dive in depth, whether it's national, statewide. We're going to get right to it. First, I'll ask a couple questions. Did you watch the president's address to the nation last night? And if so, what was your thoughts? Democrats are trying to suggest it is desperate. That Van Jones said something to the effect that it helps the Democrats' messaging. We're going to talk about that. Also, and I don't know how much we'll get into this, but did you see the poll? We've been talking a lot about the misleading polls lately. Ones to make a story that the media use. And there's a poll that suggests right now AOC would defeat J.D. Vance in a presidential race. She commented something like, just bringing it to people's attention, I don't remember the word she used, to try to start that speculation going. We may talk about that. Oh, look at all these waves coming in. First, I missed this yesterday. We're going to go through some breaking news quickly. I missed this yesterday. Miriam Edelson was at the Hanukkah dinner that we talked about on yesterday's broadcast with President Trump. She pledged $250 million for a third Trump term at that Hanukkah party. Adelson spoke at the event, mentioning that she had spoken with Trump lawyer and known Israel defender Alan Dershowitz about the legality of a third Trump term. Full disclosure, I interviewed Alan Dershowitz a few times on this program, on the radio version of this program. Adelson, an Israel-American philanthropist, was the wife of the late billionaire Sheldon Adelson and a prominent donor to Trump's 2024 campaign. She spoke at the Hanukkah event, noting that she had a conversation with Alan Dershowitz about the potential for a third term from the president. Alan, I agree with you, she announced, so we can do it. Think about it. After the crowd began chanting 4 more years, Adelson turned to Trump and whispered something, after which Trump announced to the crowd, she said, think about it, I'll give you another $250 million. To which Adelson responded, I will give. I thought that was worth mentioning as an update from a topic that we discussed yesterday. Okay. Now, the rumor that Dan Bongino is going to leave the FBI as the deputy director has been confirmed. He is going to leave. He will resign his position with less than a year on the job, FBI deputy director Dan Bongino, after reportedly packing up all his belongings and bidding adieu to his team. He announced on social media yesterday, I will be leaving my position with the FBI in January. I want to thank President Trump, Attorney General Bondi, and Director Patel for the opportunity to serve with purpose. Most importantly, I want to thank you, my fellow Americans, for the privilege to serve you. God bless America and all those who defend her. The announcement caps a day of speculation because he was packing up his things that he would leave. President Trump later confirmed that Bongino was headed for the exits, saying, Dan did a great job. I think he wants to go back to his show. Now, he had a successful radio broadcast. So this has been kind of, I don't want to say a long time in the works, but there was a lot of anonymous sources suggesting that he wasn't happy. Now, some believe that his co-deputy, Andrew Bailey, will take on the full traditional duties of the deputy role. That is the speculation now. Also, we learned yesterday, and I see some comments coming in. We'll get to those in the next segment. Have I counted all these waves? You guys are really up and at 'em this morning. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announced yesterday that he is overhauling the military chaplain corps, which provide religious and spiritual support to members of the armed forces and their families, saying he intends to target the New Age concepts. Quote, in an atmosphere of political correctness and secular humanism, chaplains have been minimized, viewed by many as therapists instead of ministers. Faith and virtue were traded for self-help and self-care. If you need proof, just look at the current Army Spiritual Fitness Guide. In well over 100 pages, it mentions God 1 time. That's it. It mentions feelings 11 times. It even mentions playfulness, whatever that is, 9 times. There's zero mention of virtue. The guide relies on New Age notions. He later added that he had a directive right here that I will sign today to eliminate the use of Army Spiritual Fitness Guide effective immediately. These types of training manuals have no place in the War Department. Our chaplains are chaplains, not emotional support officers, and we're going to treat them as such. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations. That's what they were commenting on, some of the things of past overhauls, excuse me. So getting rid of this secular humanism and this political correctness and these New Age notions. He said the guide alienates religious soldiers by pushing secular humanism. As a result, he said the Army will be tossing it, and said that he had a directive that he would be signing, as I mentioned. Now, the Army's guide was released in August of 2025 and frames spiritual fitness as an important part of force readiness. 3 Corps pioneered a months-long study to develop the 112-page document, according to a previous report by the Military Times. Army spokesperson Tony McCormick said, "We are aggressively moving forward with Secretary Hegseth's intent to discontinue the Army Spiritual Fitness Guide." Hegseth said one new change includes simplifying the faith and belief coding system, which he said has ballooned to over 200 overly complex faith and belief codes. There will be a top-down cultural shift, putting spiritual well-being on the same footing as mental and physical health as a first step towards creating a supportive environment for our warriors and their souls, right in time for the holiday season. Okay. Also, we're moving quick. As I've mentioned in the past, there's no way to segue on some of these. We are going to dive into other topics more in depth, like the President's address to the nation last night. A quick update, and people had commented that I seemed frustrated about the topic, but the Vanity Fair interview with Susie Wiles, we're going to talk just quickly on that because there's a couple opinion pieces that I think are worth mentioning. But 4 Republicans yesterday went against Speaker Johnson to join Hakeem Jeffries' Obamacare push. I don't think we got a chance to mention that. I think it broke right after this broadcast. The 4 Republicans were Representative Brian Fitzpatrick from Pennsylvania, Ryan McKenzie from Pennsylvania, Rob Brejahan from Pennsylvania, and Mike Lawler. Now, Mike Lawler is an interesting case because if you've noticed lately, and this is one of the concerns when people start talking, when people started talking about his potential gubernatorial run. Now, of course, he is not running for governor here in New York State. He declared he wasn't. He's got a very tough district, typical Democrat district that he happened to win the year that Lee Zeldin did such a good job running for governor and really helping prop up a lot of these candidates. So if you've noticed lately, because he does have a tough district, and this is why I was concerned that how he would run for governor, he's become much more moderate. He's bucked the Speaker and Trump numerous times as of late. He spoke out against the Rob Reiner tweet. In this case, he signed on with Hakeem Jeffries for the Obamacare push. We had something else yesterday. I can't remember what it was. He also went against the president. But the House Republicans passed a bill they say will lower health care costs for a broad swath of Americans by roughly 11%. It's a victory for Speaker Johnson, who's been managing deep divisions with the House GOP on the topic of health care. So he eked out a health care bill victory yesterday because there's been numerous bills put up. I'm trying to find what happened. I'm assuming the one that the 4 Republicans signed on to died in the House. Yes, the bill's passage comes hours after a group of moderate Republicans joined a Democrat-led discharge petition to force a vote on extending the subsidies for another 3 years. A discharge petition is a mechanism. We talked about that in the past. Each of the 4 House Republicans made clear that backing Democrats' bill was not their first choice, but they felt they were left with a few options coming from the Republicans. But the majority of House Republicans are against extending the subsidies, at least without significant reforms. Conservatives have argued the subsidies amount to throwing more money at a broken system. Republican Study Committee Chairman August Pfluger from Texas said Obamacare has been an unmitigated disaster for 15 years, crushing families with high premiums and rampant fraud while enriching insurance companies. It's time for conservatives to get serious about advancing policies that can become law and therefore actually reduce costs. Calling this bill, the Speaker Johnson put forward, a solid first step. The House GOP bill, the Lower Healthcare Premiums for All Americans Act, includes provisions to codify association health plans, which allows small businesses and people who are self-employed to band together to purchase health care coverage plans, giving them access to greater bargaining power. Republicans also plan to appropriate funding for cost-sharing reductions beginning in 2027, which are designed to lower out-of-pocket medical costs in the individual health care market. House GOP leadership aides said it will bring down the cost of premiums by 12%. So there's your update on that. And also yesterday, House lawmakers narrowly approved a bill to criminalize transgender treatments such as surgeries and hormone therapies on minors, with the exception for rare medical conditions. The Protect Children's Innocence Act, which imposes penalties of fines and up to 10 years in prison against violators, cleared the lower chamber in a 216 to 211 vote. This was actually considered Marjorie Taylor Greene's bill. Protecting children is not optional. It's our duty, Marjorie Taylor Greene said ahead of the vote. Children are not old enough to vote, drive, or get a tattoo, and they are certainly not old enough to be chemically castrated or permanently mutilated. This is common sense. This is good versus evil. Now, on the vote, Greene was joined by 45 House Republicans who sponsored the bill, 3 Democrats, Representative Vincent Gonzalez from Texas, Don Davis from North Carolina, and we just learned North Carolina is starting to go conservative, so this could be the reason why, and Henry Cooler, a Democrat from Texas, voted in favor of it, while 4 Republicans opposed it, and this is another example. One of them, Mike Lawler. You had Representative Mike Kennedy from Utah, Brian Fitzpatrick from Pennsylvania, Gabe Evans from Colorado, and again, Mike Lawler from New York opposed this bill. Greene asked ahead of the vote, if a child believes they're a unicorn, do adults take their word for it as well? Greene is set to formally resign from the House, as you know, on January 5th. All right, so there are some of our quick updates. We're going to come back a couple of... Wow, look at all these waves coming in. I don't know if I have them all counted. I'll count them during the break. Just a quick thing on Vanity Fair. I do want to hear your thoughts on the address to the nation yesterday. So stay with us. We're just getting warmed up, and look how much we've covered already. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Tom Witzel, owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is a start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
This is Jim from Famous Brands. We are ready for fall and loaded with all of your favorite brands. Great new deals are arriving every week. We have the largest selection of clothing and footwear in the Finger Lakes, all at below retail prices. Famous Brands, downtown Watkins Glen, where you're always looking good for less.
Remodeling your home? Croft Lumber is with you every step of the way. Lay a solid foundation with Logix Element ICF forms and a steady structure with premium framing lumber and Madison treated lumber. Protect your investment with quality roofing from Tamco and Central States Metal Roofing. Enhance energy efficiency and security with Anderson windows and Therma True doors. Beautify the exterior with Mastic siding, Trex decking, and Benjamin Moore paint. Start and finish your home project right with Croft Lumber in Sayre.
Is putting nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's drive drought brought some positives to the crop. Lee Com Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam. Brought to you by Boss Security. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Boy, we got a lot of comments about the address to the nation. We'll get to those in just a second, but this one, not about the address to the nation, but I want to address it. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Either my hearing is gone or it's April Fool's Day. Did I really hear AOC would beat Vance? Again, this is about polling. The New York Democrat Congresswoman, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, edges the likely Republican nominee, J.D. Vance, 51% to 49% and this is why I say take it with the biggest grain of salt you can find, because what's interesting, this is an example of a poll and a polling group you've never heard of puts out this number. They get a name for themselves because in this case, Newsweek covers it, then Newsweek covers it, and AOC can tweet it out. It's a story as old as time, but it's the Argument Vera Site survey. Sure. However, the result was within the poll's 2.7% point margin of error, making the two candidates statistically tied. The poll asked voters who they would vote for if the election was between the two of them. Then they really go through and dissect it. And then they asked, well, I don't want to go through all the comments people made in the past. But yes, that is the supposed story. They tried to make a major story out of it. Yesterday, AOC tried to kind of up it on social media to get people speculating. But according to, again, the Argument Vera Site survey, AOC would top J.D. Vance 51% to 49%. So there you go. Comments from other viewers. Good morning, Frank. Steve here. Good morning, Steve. It's amazing how legacy media can only have a meltdown, saying that Trump in his speech looked like he was losing a step again. They couldn't contradict anything he was saying, so all they could do is try to talk about him like they normally do. It's deja vu all over again. Yes, and I saw some of that coverage. They're hoping that you didn't watch it. So when they tell you, like the Democrats that we'll get to later on said, oh, he lost a step, or this really helps Democrats, or blah, blah, blah. CNN put something to the extent of a fact check, fabricated. It's stories old as time. Mark writes in, good morning, Frank, and good morning, Mark. I didn't watch the President Trump's address. It was too late for me. Yes, I would agree. Now, I understand why they do it. It's for the West Coast and to make sure you reach the most people. But 9 o'clock to start a speech, it's just like the State of the Union. I end up having to watch it in the morning or the recap. I agree. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Good morning. I wanted to be impressed with the Trump speech yesterday, but because I follow him regularly, not much new. However, I'm glad he did it for the masses. I like that he kept the message simple and clear. Comment from a different viewer. The Trump speech was okay. He covered a lot quickly. He had a lot to cover. That's the one problem with the Address to the Nation. It's not like one of his rallies where he has 3 hours. And finally, I'm also, from a different viewer, I'm also grateful that he called out the Democrats on their key faults. However, I doubt Democrat supporters or the media will acknowledge a positive spin on any of it. No, they're not. In my research this morning, they're trying to portray it as negative. They're trying to portray it as a weakness almost from the president. I see some other comments coming in since the break. We'll get to those in the next segment. But yes, the coverage is going to be very frustrating. We'll get to that a little bit later on in the program. We've got a couple other things to cover. As I mentioned, so first of all, the Vanity Fair writer has doubled down on the interview with Susie Wiles. Why I'm so frustrated about this story is because it seems such a non-issue to me. I know the media is overhyping it like they always do, but there was nothing to me in that was that shocking or that disqualifying of Susie Wiles. It just seemed like a interview that I would say she shouldn't have done. Numerous interviews she shouldn't have done, especially with Vanity Fair. But there wasn't the big takeaway that the media is trying to pretend there was. So the writer doubles down, saying they have nothing to say. When you hear words like out of context and omission and framing, what that tells you right away is that you have hit the target. They have nothing. They literally have not challenged a single assertion or fact in that piece. Again, there's whatever. But now they say Trump's team is at war with Vanity Fair, according to, I think this is the Washington Post. His chief of staff was quoted. His most senior advisor has criticized the interview in which he is quoted as describing the president, as she is quoted as describing the president as having an alcoholic's personality. Again, is that crazy? Is that bad? Or J.D. Vance is a conspiracy theorist for decades, or Elon Musk as an avowed ketamine user? I thought that was all known about the ketamine, but apparently not. I don't know why you go to Vanity Fair, because the problem I had with it wasn't even the quotes from Miss Wiles. The problem I had with it was how they framed everything around what she said to be a negative on Trump. Not what she said, but the alleged bombing that some call a war crime of the Venezuelan boats, these type of things. It was so thick with bias and a hate and a dislike for Trump and his team. I don't understand why you let that person kind of in your inner circle even temporarily. That confuses me, because we saw that happen too often, and she doesn't even like the spotlight. So what was the end game? The one person kind of crudely or rudely put it that, did she do this interview just so she could get the kind of the photo session with Vanity Fair? I don't know the answer. It just seems like that was not a lesson learned in the first term, when too many people were given access to Trump insiders, and it backfired. Again, Trump is, I would say, the most transparent president we've ever had, just with the amount of press gaggles he has, how many times he talks to reporters and does interviews. And so why, if you're Susie Wiles or anybody in the administration, why not just point to the president and say he's going to answer your questions? Why do a kind of behind closed doors interview? Miranda Devine, who's so good at things like this, she said, when it comes to hit jobs, the 10,000-word Vanity Fair spread on Susie Wiles is a classic of the genre. Chris Whipple, a veteran journalist, producer, and author with a career spanning the complete left-wing media, with CBS's 60 Minutes, ABC, MSNBC, CNN, NPR, Politico, The Daily Beast, The New York Times, The Washington Post. He has framed the president's chief of staff in a narrative of typical Trump derangement fantasies. The wonder is that she let him do it, and there's no doubt she did. Washington journalism veteran Mark Halperin, on his podcast, says Wiles may have thought the 11 interviews Whipple said she did this year were off the record. Journalists talk to longtime sources all the time with an implicit understanding that everything's off the record except when you come to a mutual agreement otherwise. In an industry where trust is everything, burning a source by revealing off-the-record confidences is career-limiting, to say the least. Exhibit A. Olivia Nuzzi, the short-lived West Coast correspondent for Vanity Fair, has coined the term Michael Wolfing it, meaning telling a source everything is off the record and printing it anyway. Trump biographer Wolf got rich burning sources and making up stories, but nobody buys his books or believes what he says anymore. And we know Nuzzi's journalistic career is over, about having affairs and things like that. Wiles did not respond to a question about whether she thought her conversations with Whipple were off the record, which is an answer in and of itself. Whipple told the New York Times he has the tape recordings. On CNN, he responded to Wiles' furious statement that he had taken her out of context with a knowing smirk, saying the giveaway when you're a journalist, as I just mentioned, is that when you say omission and things like that. No surprise that he calls Wiles the target, which was probably not evident in their warm interactions, which he mentions throughout the piece as evidence of their intimacy. He lists phone calls after she goes to church on Sundays, or when she sat home doing laundry. He drops in the time she called him from her car. There are clandestine sandwich lunches together in her office. They don't know what I'm doing, she said, motioning towards the Oval, and laughed out loud. Whipple told CNN Wiles wanted a fair hearing, and I think she thought she would get one. Sadly, she was wrong, because Whipple planted a series of mini IEDs for her boss and his team to navigate. First was how he weaved Democrat lies in between her quotes. This is what bothers me so much. This is why I wanted to mention Miranda Devine's piece. It was the writing around her words, and Miranda Devine puts it perfectly. Here we go. First was how he weaved Democrat lies in between her quotes to try to make her complicit, such as the President Trump was using Charlie Kirk's assassination in the same way that Hitler used the Reichstag fire, and 9 people ultimately died in the January 6, 2021 Capitol riots. That's all things he said in the piece. Not that she said, that he said. Then came the quotes that have been quickly absorbed into the Democrat weapons cache. Susie Wiles and Donald Trump has an alcoholic's personality. The Democrat Rapid Response Team gloated on Vice President J.D. Vance, calling him a conspiracy theorist, on Pam Bondi, completely whiffed, and on Elon Musk, avowed ketamine user. While the saucy lines caused a lot of buzz in Washington, Trump and the administration quickly circled the wagon around Wiles and sang her praises, lauding her loyalty and leadership. We know that Trump said, hey, I've talked about my alcoholic's personality before, and I don't drink. He took it as a compliment. As she told Podforce One, which is the Post's podcast over the summer, her father was an alcoholic, so she knows the personality. Vance had the best response to the perceived slur that he's a conspiracy theorist. He knows Wiles admires him. His jolly response to a journalist's question was a deadly barb cloaked in a joke. Sometimes I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I only believe in the conspiracy theories that are true, he said. That's a great response. I didn't see that. Then he listed several, from COVID lies to the Biden cover-ups and anti-Trump lawfare. A conspiracy theory is just something that was true 6 months before the media admitted to it. That's a great line from J.D. Vance. I know I'm running late. Please bear with me. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, and Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt were interviewed for Vanity Fair's hit piece and posed for the most unflattering photos that could possibly be taken of naturally attractive people. That was another disturbing part of reading those articles, was the photos. The Vanity Fair even presented it in a negative way from the photos. The frown on Vance's face shows he knew it was a setup. Extreme close-ups that show every pore, blemish, and wrinkle, and look more like mugshots than the flattering, glamorous portraits of, let's say, Biden staffers, like Karine Jean-Pierre. Wiles is pictured with bug eyes. This happens. You get glamorous shots of the Obamas in the past, Clintons. You know how it works. Instead, in these photos, they hired Christopher Anderson, known for his dark, gritty snaps. He has posted a video clip of someone saying of the Vanity Fair photos, he didn't make them look ugly, they are ugly. So he was coming in from a biased place as well. He also precariously posted a photo of Joe Biden walking down the big boy stairs of Air Force One with the caption, "We're about to miss this guy. Buckle up, see you in a week. I'm going dark." It's probably understandable that Wiles talked to Whipple under the pretext of updating his best-selling 2017 book about presidential chiefs of staff with a pen portrait of the first woman in that role, and potentially the most consequential of all. None of it showed anyone in a bad light, least of all Wiles or Trump. But the timing in Vanity Fair's January issue, launching a difficult midterm year, and the magazine's foreboding photographs and layout could not be worse. The First Lady's lavish fly-on-the-wall Amazon documentary film, Melania, which also comes out in January, is another wild card that may create vulnerabilities for Trump's enemies to exploit. Got a little bit more on this, and then we got to move on, because I want to hear about the speech. Everybody's got good things to say about the speech, or at least commenting on the speech. I appreciate it. Keep it coming in. We'll be right back. Running just a tad bit late. Stay with us.
I'm Marianne Crawford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me, to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Yeah, hello. I'm really not sure if this is what you all do, but I really don't have anywhere else to turn.
Hi. I don't even know why I'm calling right now. I'm sorry. My thoughts are going a mile a minute.
My kids are out of state. My buddies from the Army are all gone now. I'm really alone.
I left the service last year. My mom just passed away a few months ago. I miss so much time with her. I keep getting calls about the bills, and I'm trying to get a job, but I feel so stuck.
Okay, ma'am. I'm glad you called.
Okay, sir. Let's stay on the line and walk through some things.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Here's the deal. We gotta set ourselves up. Retirement is the long game. We can't play about our future or our finances. Let's put ourselves in the right position.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street in Corning. Let's go through a couple viewer comments. Keep them coming in. Keep those waves coming in. We're very chatty this morning, and I love it. We got to take a break almost already. But a comment from a viewer, AOC will topple Vance. That's baloney propaganda. Yes, that's kind of, I agree. Because it's a no-name pollster that puts that out. It gets them attention because a Newsweek type organization will run with it. And then AOC tweets it out. It's I guess PR or Media 101. So yeah, I think it's laughable at face value. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. The 22nd Amendment is very clear about a maximum 2 terms for the presidency. It's very clear. I'm certain that Trump, having an IQ of 180, laughing face, he would be fully aware of the details of the Constitution of the United States. P.S. I didn't watch Trump lie about his accomplishments last night. Well, that's why I brought up the story from Adelson saying that at the Hanukkah dinner, because I know when anybody says that with the 4 more years or Trump has the hats or it comes up in conversation, it creates people that don't like Trump. It creates a frenzy within them. So I did not mean to maybe start your morning off like that. But that's why I thought it was so funny, because when someone says that, boy, it gets some people outraged. All right, one last thing about Susie Wiles. Ben Domenech said the White House decision to cooperate with Vanity Fair, given the magazine exclusive access to top Trump administrative figures, is one more example of what happens when you let the legacy media pretend that this time it's changed. And that's the problem, because she didn't even get, or the administration didn't even get, a fair photograph session. I mean, that will be one of the things, because there will be a lot of people that don't read the article because it's been covered so much in the media, or they just don't care. But seeing that at the magazine rack when you're checking out at the grocery store in January, the visual will stick with a lot of people. It was not just, well, like Miranda Devine said, you've got attractive people making them look ugly. You've got the close-ups. You've got it's a trick as old as time, and that's why they hired a far-left photographer. But I'll continue. That its editors won't trick you, that they won't try to be negative. Its reporters won't put the worst possible spin on your remarks. Its photographers won't dream of using Photoshop to highlight your every blemish for social media snippers to spread far and wide. Why, oh why, does every Republican administration fall in love with the idea of trying to win over the people who hate them? And unfortunately, to Ben Domenech's point, this is like kind of the Marjorie Taylor Greene, or if you want to go way back to John McCain's. There's something about Republicans that want to be liked by the media so badly that sometimes they'll cave on their core beliefs, not in this case with Vanity Fair, but with like a Marjorie Taylor Greene or John McCain. When I say core beliefs, the Republican supposedly ideals will cave on them just to get that pat on the back, just to get that other invite to The View, or just to be able to go on CNN. I don't understand it, and it's not just administrations, it's Republicans in general. Beware of writers who act like you're a friend, he writes. Unless I've bailed you out and didn't write about it, I assure you we are not. I admit that looks can be deceiving, but nothing is more deceptive than Vanity Fair's depiction of members of this administration in bizarre close-ups, deliberately staged and selected to make them look ugly, spotlighting splotches, scars, and crazy eyes. In the past, legacy media at least had some shame about this. When The Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg profiled John McCain in 2008, the photographer hired for the piece used lighting and strobes in a purposefully deceptive way. As the Post reported at the time, the photographer crowed that she had tricked McCain into standing over a strobe light placed on the floor, turning his face into a horror show of shadows. The resulting photo depicts McCain as devilish, with bulging brows and washed-out skin. He had no idea he was being lit from below, the photographer said, adding that none of his entourage picked up on the light switch either. I guess they're not very sophisticated. Goldberg and James Bennett, the Atlantic's editor at the time, both publicly apologized, calling the photographer's behavior incredibly unprofessional. They knew how bad it would make them look for their magazine to do such a thing to a man who earned his scars in war. This time, no such apology should be expected. In recent years, the photographers have learned that there are no negative consequences to acting like smear artists when a Republican is a subject. The White House is stacked with young, intelligent figures in comparison to past administrations, and the Vanity Fair photographers did their best to make them look ridiculous. You have to work pretty hard to make 28-year-old press secretary Karen Leavitt look like a withered crone, but those journalists viewed it as a mission. They viewed it as their job. They even presented the lighthearted J.D. Vance, who offered photographer Christopher Adelson and his assistants $1,000 to make Secretary of State Marco Rubio look really, quote, bad, we'll say. The piece frames this as a sign of underlining tension between the two. Any normal red-blooded American knows that this is how men josh each other. But there aren't many of those at Vanity Fair that know that kind of brotherhood. If you aren't familiar with DC's small and swampy social circles, it's easy to imagine that there must be some reporter at this publication with a smidge of even-handedness. But we're talking about Vanity Fair, an outlet that branded Zohran Mamdani a legend before he ever held a job. The same Vanity Fair that until recently employed Olivia Nuzzi, who had zero respect for off-the-record quotes or the expectation that a reporter shouldn't get with their subjects. She pretended to be friends with a lot of Republicans, too, you know. Perhaps White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles should have taken a lesson from Stanley McChrystal, the former four-star general who resigned in 2010 after airing his criticisms of Barack Obama to a reporter from Rolling Stones. Like McChrystal, Wiles committed a Kinsley gaffe in the parlance of D.C., telling a journalist too much of the truth about her feelings. Yet multiple administration figures jumped to her defense because Wiles has shown herself to be such a canny operator to this point. And despite some of the juicier quotes in the piece, she's running a much tighter ship of state than her predecessors. That's one reason, even after mistakenly thinking Condé Nast would ever treat a Trump figure fairly, she's likely to stay in the job. Vance, at least, seemed more aware that Vanity Fair would do them dirty, saying, "Is this the part where you say we're all evil?" he reportedly asked. For the dying, hate-filled legacy media, it's always that part, Mr. Vice President, and it always will be. I thought that was a great way of putting it, too. Now we're going to move on. But that's Vanity Fair. I don't understand that decision at all, and that's why I was so frustrated yesterday and frustrated today. I don't understand that decision to give them any insider access. But your thoughts, we got to move along. Your thoughts on President Trump's address to the nation last night. We'll get to that in a little bit. We got to take a break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking.
Some people who need Social Security disability benefits go to their hearing alone and get turned down. Not every lawyer will appeal a denial after your hearing. I will. I'm Peter Gorton of Lockman & Gorton. I help people win benefits by appealing their denials, including in federal court. But your time to appeal is limited, so call my office now.
Lockman & Gordon, 1-800-698-0567.
Imagine checking your own heart with medical precision from anywhere. You can with KardioMobile 6L, the FDA-cleared EKG that provides 6 times more heart data than any smartwatch. And it detects 3 of the most common arrhythmias in just 30 seconds, including atrial fibrillation, bradycardia, and tachycardia. Check your heart with the #1 doctor-recommended personal EKG. Give KardioMobile 6L this holiday. On sale now for just $99 at Kardia.com or Amazon.
We are the keepers of the wild. America's original and most invested conservationists. For more than 80 years, we've been committed to conserving wildlife and the natural landscapes that define our nation. From rugged alpine ridgelines to peaceful tall grass prairies, we've supported the conservation of more than 36 million acres of American wildlands. Our funding has led to cleaner water, fresher air, and improved wildlife habitat. From abundant fish and waterfowl populations to robust deer and elk herds, nothing is more important than maintaining wild spaces for adventurers to explore and wildlife to thrive. We are America's hunters and target shooters, stewards of the American outdoors.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. So many great comments. Let's get right to them. Vanity Fair lost its way years ago. The name says it all. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Trump's speech was well done and to the point. Far better than a State of the Union address when time is wasted with applause and sour faces. Boy, isn't that frustrating if you do stay up that late and you watch it and enough of the applause. But anyway, he talked faster than a liberal can think. Our nation is in great hands. Thank you very much. Ken writes in, we watched the speech and have the following comments. I agree that if you follow politics, there was nothing new in his speech. I think he was mainly talking to the sheeple that typically only hear the propaganda that the left feeds them. I think he was trying to speak in a strong voice to try and get his message across. But the change in his typical tone made him sound somewhat angry. This is not a criticism, it's more of an understanding. If I was lied about, demonized, called names, and if all of my work to make America a better place was met with political opposition for 10 years, my demeanor would be 1,000 times worse. So I applaud President Trump for holding it together and for continuing to work in the best interest of the American people. And you raise such a good point, Ken, because they're going to demonize everything that he does. So it must be very frustrating to know, and you know those numbers like the back of your hand, and to see the media lie about them constantly must just be maddening. And it must be maddening that you have to go on and address the nation to get your message across as the President of the United States, instead of having it covered fairly by the media that's supposed to, quote unquote, report the news. So yes, I could understand why there would be frustration or anger there. Comment from a different viewer. I did watch President Trump's address, and overall I thought it went well. My big concern is that not everyone has followed and paid attention for years to understand all the nuances and what is required to get some major things accomplished. So when we shop and we see the prices, at least in this state, really have not dropped all that much, and that's what people focus on, what they see, what they know. That said, I believe by year 3, with no new unforeseen Democrat roadblocks and games, we should see some easing because the bigger picture looks strong. I think it could be much quicker than that. I think the problem is going to be, when you mention roadblocks, if the message doesn't get out by midterms and Democrats get in control, you're going to have the next 2 years be nothing but impeachments, nothing but roadblocks, as I'm sure you are aware. So that is going to be the frustration. Okay. Before we dive more in depth to the speech, I don't know if you saw this. This came across my desk yesterday. President Trump put new plaques underneath the portraits in the White House Presidential Walk of Fame, that same Walk of Fame that instead of a portrait of Biden, it's a portrait of the auto pen. Remember that made the rounds there for a while, that news story? Well, now he's put plaques underneath them. Underneath Joe Biden's, it says, Sleepy Joe Biden was by far the worst president in American history. Biden oversaw a series of unprecedented disasters that brought our nation to the brink of destruction. His policies caused the highest inflation ever recorded, leading the U.S. dollar to lose more than 20% of its value in 4 years. Nicknamed both sleepy and crooked, Joe Biden was dominated by his radical left handlers. They and their allies in the fake news media attempted to cover up his severe mental decline and his unprecedented use of auto pen. The second plaque underneath the same one reads, following his humiliating debate loss to President Trump in the big June 2024 debate, he was forced to withdraw from his campaign for re-election in disgrace. Kind of a recap of some others. Barack Obama, he called one of the most divisive political figures in American history. Keep in mind, these are under their official portraits under the White House Presidential Walk of Fame. These are actual plaques underneath them. As president, this is about Obama, he passed a highly ineffective Unaffordable Care Act, resulting in his party losing control of both houses of Congress and the election of the largest House Republican majority since 1946. Obama also spied on the 2016 presidential campaign of Donald J. Trump and presided over the creation of the Russia hoax, the worst political scandal in American history. His hand-picked successor, Hillary Rodham Clinton, would then lose the presidency to Donald J. Trump. Beneath the picture of former President Bill Clinton, a plaque says, in 2016, President Bill Clinton's wife, Hillary Clinton, lost the presidency to President Donald J. Trump. Now, that's coming from Fox News. Needless to say, the legacy mainstream media, not a big fan of these. Trump hangs plaques mocking Biden, Obama. The plaques include insults and unfounded claims about some of his predecessors. Unfounded claims. Just out of curiosity, I wonder what those are. I mean, you can throw that term around, but sometimes it'd be nice if they backed it up. They say the plaques read like they're editorialized. The permanent signs are similar to the president's social media posts with sporadic capitalization and punctuation, including many exclamation points. We don't have to read all of these. I was just trying to see if it ever tells us what... he attacked Biden for his economic record, his climate, immigration, and foreign policies, including the Afghanistan withdrawal, calling it among the most humiliating events in American history. He also said that because of Biden's weakness, Russia invaded Ukraine, and Hamas terrorists launched the heinous October 7th attack on Israel. I want to read all these. I don't know what it says under Trump's too, because I haven't got the full rundown yet. Anyway, we don't need to go through all this. But this is one that the media is going to be in a tizzy about, clutching their pearls, as the old cliche goes. Needless to say, Obama had no comment about the plaque. ABC News did not receive immediate responses from Biden or the Clintons for comment. Now, many of the plaques were written directly by the president himself, said Carolyn Levitt. The plaques are eloquently written descriptions of each president and the legacy they left behind. As a student of history, many were written directly by the president himself. So there you are. If you have not seen them, I'm sure you can find photos of them all online. That was just something on a lighter note. We've got a couple of other stories we've got to get to. We'll probably kick off the 7 o'clock hour with our discussion on the president's address to the nation, but we've gotten so many great comments from you. I can't thank you enough. I do appreciate it. So keep them coming in. Keep those waves coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. Stay with us.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bust.
Thousands lined the pier at Seneca Harbor. Race weekend brought thousands to Watkins Glen International.
Hundreds and horseheads joined other cities around the country on Saturday for the No Kings protest.
It's the last tea party for Crystal with Miss Marshmallow. Oh, wow. And Sarah's first day of management training at Goodwill. When you donate to Goodwill, you help provide skills training and career placement. And the things you love start a new life too.
Small businesses are the heart of America. Like you, these entrepreneurs started out with a dream and a drive to build a better life. If you have a small business idea to grow or challenge to face, you don't have to go it alone. Since 1964, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses. Today, they are the nation's largest nonprofit source of expert mentoring, resources, and education. Whether you're starting out, building back, or have worked at it for years, SCORE will match you with specialized mentors. Our thousands of volunteers provide the guidance and connections you need for free. Your success is waiting. SCORE is ready to help. Find a mentor today at SCORE.org.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. Couple of quick comments. One comment is, thoughts on Jack Smith closed door deposition. Yeah, the media is running with this idea that Jack Smith said behind closed doors that he developed proof beyond a reasonable doubt that President Trump had criminally conspired to overturn the results of the 2020 election. It just gives him another opportunity to talk about the 2020 elections. I don't know why it was a closed-door deposition. I don't always know the nuances on that, but it is frustrating. Mark writes in, the plaque under Bill Clinton, he's suggesting should have mentioned Monica Lewinsky. I don't think it did, but I'm not positive on that. All right, a couple quick things, because we talk about anti-Semitism so much on this program, and there's been just such troubling reports out as of late. But first, the Bondi Beach hero, the one I'm sure you've seen the video of by now, he has, they took up donations for him, Ahmed Al-Ahmad. He's now a multi-millionaire. More than $2.5 million has been raised for the heroic bystander who wrestled the gun from one of the terrorists during the horrific mass shooting. Nearly 43,000 individual donations have been made to a crowdfunding campaign for the Sutherland tobacconist, including a maximum of $99,999 from American billionaire Bill Ackman. In a moment of chaos and danger, Ahmed Al-Ahmad stepped forward without hesitation. His actions were selfless, instinctive, and undeniably heroic, taken without regard for his own safety. Early reports indicate he was shot twice in the process while protecting others. This GoFundMe has been created to show our gratitude and support for someone who demonstrated incredible courage when it mattered most. Total donations to verified fundraisers on GoFundMe for Bondi shooting victims and their families now stand at nearly $5 million. Then we heard the disturbing, troubling news yesterday as we talk about anti-Semitism on college campuses, in the streets. A Jewish New Yorker described how he was stabbed just centimeters from his heart by a hateful, sick person. This potential murderer said, quote, I am going to kill a Jew today, the knife-wielding maniac said before launching the anti-Semitic attack. That's what victim Elias Rosner said in an interview. I was waiting in a crowd of Jewish people, and the guy started spouting stuff. I'm going to kill Jewish people. I'm going to kill a Jew today. I don't give a blank. Horrible things. I don't even want to read what else he said. The man looked very serious. He ended up stabbing Mr. Rosner, and just centimeters from his heart. This is what happens when you have so many pushing this hate, this anti-Semitism. Whether it's on college campuses, they're pushing it, encouraging their students. Whether it's the media, it's very troubling. And listen to this. So we have the Bondi Beach attack, okay? And we're going to end on this note. Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz suggested yesterday that President Donald Trump was a bigger threat to the American way of life than radical Islamic jihad. I think we have to focus. This comes off the heels of the Australian Jewish attack at Bondi Beach. I think we have to focus, quite frankly, on, if we're worried about the threat to American values, on the person who's in the White House. I mean, we have a president. So the host interrupted, almost in disbelief, asking her if she was really going with that. Yeah, I'm going there, she said, because we have a president who has completely undermined our democracy. So you don't see jihad? You don't see that as a problem? Said the reporter. She said, well, I don't see it as a single lens problem. We have a president who has been determined to undermine our constitutional principles, to degrade our democracy, to divide instead of unite us. She argued, Debbie Wasserman Schultz argued that anti-Semitism was a growing issue, but argued that it was a problem among many young white men as well as Islamic extremists. It's absolutely unacceptable to just oversimplify the problem with anti-Semitism right now and paint it with a broad brush and say, you know what, if we just deal with radical Islam, then Jews are going to be fine, Schultz said. She insisted that Trump had let anti-Semitism grow. She said, I want a president who actually walks the walk as much as he talks the talk. I want a president that makes sure that we restore the nonprofit security grant funding the Project Jewish Institution, or protects Jewish institutions and other religious institutions from attacks like we're talking about here. I want a president who isn't closing down division that investigate discriminatory conduct and anti-Semitic attacks. Now, asked to respond to this, where Debbie Wasserman Schultz, remember, used to be the head of the Democrat Party, actually says that Trump is a larger threat to American values than Islamic jihad. The White House said only someone suffering from a severe case of Trump derangement syndrome would make such an outlandish comment. Following several recent high-profile cases of jihadist attacks, no sane person should hesitate to condemn radical Islamic terrorism. Debbie Wasserman Schultz obviously does not fit into that category. Unbelievable. All right. How do I want to do this? I'm going to take a back-to-back break because we are running late. Providence police have admitted that Brown University mass shooter could be anywhere as the manhunt drags on to its, I think, 6th day, that they have zero information on a possible motive. Providence cops have gotten so desperate for new leads that they released blurry photos of someone who might have come in contact with the shooter, even as they insisted they aren't discouraged about the slow pace of their investigation. Now the university president, Brown University president, is receiving a lot of scrutiny, Christina Paxson, after her mass shooting response. In a Tuesday press conference, law enforcement and university officials had very little to tell the public in regards to any leads or potential motives. Paxton sparked criticism online over an answer where she discussed gun violence. She said, the primary point that I wanted to address before we get to questions is that Brown is deeply committed to the safety, security, and well-being of our community. I've been deeply saddened to see people questioning that. Paxton told reporters amid questions about why the school had been unable to provide video of the shooter from inside the building or any concrete information about a suspect. She said, we understand that as time goes on, there is maybe a natural instinct to assign responsibility for a tragic event like this. Anxiety and fear is very natural, but the shooter is responsible. Horrific gun violence took the lives of these students and hospitalized others. It's deeply sad and tragic. The schools across the country are targets of violence. Brown is no exception. So Matt Whitlock said, kind of bizarre, quiet part read out loud. You may be tempted to blame a violent terrorist or even failed security apparatus when an innocent person is murdered. But don't forget, it's actually the gun's fault. These people educate our kids. Others saying she's awful. Yeah, pushing. We saw Chuck Schumer. We saw a lot of people pushing gun control right off the jump. All right, we are out of time. Yes, Climate Effect Friday, Bob. I'm sorry. I had an issue with it. I'll get back to you on that. I meant to email you yesterday, Climate Effect Friday, Bob. I appreciate that. Thank you. We'll be right back with hour number 2 after this.
When it comes to cleaning your house or business, Magic Rags Cleaning Service has you covered from ceiling to floor. With powerful steam cleaning and attention to detail, we have you covered for moving out cleans, move-in cleans, Airbnbs, or just keeping everything neat and tidy. We go above and beyond in our residential and commercial cleaning, and our professional crew makes sure that your house or business is always ready for company. Call our number or schedule an appointment on Yelp or Facebook today.
When you're on, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Alcoholics Anonymous. For more information, visit aa.org.
Whether it's our stories, the warmth of our laugh, or our family's secret sauce, we all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/team up.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bust.
Thousands lined the pier at Seneca Harbor. Race weekend brought thousands to Watkins Glen International.
Hundreds and Horseheads joined other cities around the country on Saturday for the No Kings protest.
For all auto teams! Buy a new 2025 Ram 1500 Crew, just $43,330. You save $10,000.
Or buy a new 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited, just $38,490.
You saved $10,000.
If you don't see me, I can't save you any money.
It's the Wrap Up the Year sales event going on now at Ferrario in Elmira or at Ferrario.com.
People facing cancer, often with standing between them and life-saving treatment, is a ride to get there.
Thank you so much for picking me up.
Volunteer at cancer.org/drive to help save lives.
You make everything harder.
You're a pest.
Nobody wants you. Nobody likes you.
You are just full of raising questions and never having an answer.
If I can face MS, I can face anything.
A cure for me would be to go back to where I was.
A cure would stop you dead in your tracks.
And when we get you, it's going to be a great day.
It ends here.
MS ends with us.
And we welcome you to our number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. I just wanted to remind you, I mentioned this the other day, but the deadline is coming up to RSVP. Our friends at the First Presbyterian Church of Corning are holding their annual Christmas dinner for people who may be alone, want to gather together. Of course, it's on Christmas at the First Presbyterian Church of Corning at 1st and Pine Street. There will be a Christmas sing-along at 11:30, and dinner will be served at noon. The free dinner is offered as a gift to people in the community to bring fellowship and celebration to those who would otherwise be alone on Christmas Day. So if you want to RSVP, you need to do so by tomorrow, and the number is 607-937-5419. That's 607-937-5419. I didn't want to forget that because I know we've mentioned it a few times, but the deadline is coming up. Okay, comment from a viewer. We are not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. There's a big difference. Even conservatives use the word democracy, and it's wrong. Thank you. Yesterday, the bodies of 2 Iowa National Guard soldiers and a civilian interpreter killed in Syria were returned to the U.S. on Wednesday, with President Trump leading the dignified transfer at Delaware's Dover Air Force Base. This was before his address to the nation. The solemn ceremony saw the bodies of Sergeant Edgar Brian Torres Tovar, 25 of Des Moines, and Sergeant William Nathaniel Howard, 29 of Marshalltown, unloaded from a plane as Trump and other high-ranking officials saluted the fallen men. Tovar, Howard, and interpreter Ayad Mansour Sackett of Michigan were killed by an ISIS gunman who ambushed security forces supporting counterterrorism operations in Syria on Saturday. Trump, who was dressed in all black, maintained a serious face throughout the traditional ceremony, which he previously described during his first term as one of the toughest jobs of the presidency. U.S. Senator Chuck Grassley, who attended the ceremony at Dover with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Governor Kim Reynolds, hailed Tovar and Howard as heroes who served their country and who paid the ultimate sacrifice. You may have missed that as the media was laser-like focused on either Vanity Fair or on Trump's address to the nation. Let's talk about that. Listen to this is how the media presents it. And this is just one example CNN had it. Everything was coming from a negative perspective. Trump's address was partisan and defiant on the economy. Defiant, interesting word to use. Trump gives a partisan primetime address insisting the economy is stronger than many voters feel. This from the Associated Press, AP News. Would you ever see a headline like that in regards to a Democrat president? No. President Trump delivered a politically charged speech carried live in prime time on network television, seeking to pin the blame for economic challenges on Democrats while announcing he is sending a $1,776 bonus check to U.S. troops for Christmas. The remarks came as the nation is preparing to settle down to celebrate the holidays, yet Trump was focused more on division within the country than a sense of unity. His speech was a rehash of his recent messaging that has so far been unable to calm public anxiety about the cost of groceries, housing, utilities, and other basic goods. Now, do you remember when, because of the disastrous spending policies of the Biden administration, people were raising concerns about the cost of inflation, that the same inflation that Trump is attempting to bring down through his policies? Do you remember when they laughed and mocked and ridiculed you for saying that you were struggling to get by? They weren't doing pieces like this. That's for sure, questioning and criticizing Biden. They were doing the opposite. They were telling you, never mind what you feel. On page 37 of this manual, you're doing just fine. But now it's time to, again, attack Trump for what has been not even a year of trying to fix the 4 years of wrong in the Biden administration. They're attacking him as if he had been there 8 years. Trump has promised an economic boom, yet inflation has stayed elevated and the job market has weakened sharply in the wake of his import taxes. Trump suggested that his tariffs, which are partly responsible for boosting consumer prices, would fund a new warrior dividend for 1.45 million military members, a payment that could ease some of the financial strains for many households. The amount of $1,776 was a reference to next year's 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. The checks are already on the way, he said. Presidential addresses to the nation carried on network television are traditionally less partisan than rally speeches, but Trump gave a condensed version of his usual political remarks. He said, 11 months ago, I inherited a mess and I'm fixing it. We're poised for an economic boom, the likes of which the world has never seen. His holiday wishes came at a crucial time as he tries to rebuild his steady eroding popularity. He, in this primetime address, the New York Post said, and this is some of the things that Trump said. I don't want to fall into just quoting it because many of you watched it, but I would like to hear your opinion. But he said, we had the worst trade deals ever made and our country was laughed at from all over the world, but they're not laughing anymore. Over the past 11 months, we brought more positive change to Washington than any administration in American history. He had a lot of charts and a lot of graphs. And I don't want to fall into the trap of reading all this because you've already seen it. Democrats, led by Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, forced that shutdown. So we mentioned about the shutdown, which we could see another one coming soon. The rare primetime billing let Trump reach a broad national audience, giving him an opportunity to reframe a pessimistic national mood. And that's what is so, I guess, frustrating about it, as we mentioned earlier. Why it gets so annoying is this should be, the things that he is saying should be reported on by the mainstream media without him, basically them forcing his hand to do a national address, a nationwide address. He shouldn't have to get his message out that way, but because of the unfair and biased reporting, he can't get his message out, as we've seen. He talked about, I guess, the New York Post, their big takeaways were pharmaceuticals, how he's lowering the price there, tax cuts. He noted the implementation of exemptions for tips, overtime, and Social Security benefits. Under these cuts, many families will be saving between $11,000 and $20,000 a year, and next spring is projected to be the largest tax refund season of all time. Electricity, Trump said that he would reduce rapidly rising costs associated with artificial intelligence thanks to rapid approval of new production. Within the next 12 months, we will have opened 1,600 new electrical generating plants, a record. He talked about rent, talked about home buying. Overall, Trump proclaimed he was making America great again. Tonight, after 11 months, our border is secure, inflation has stopped, wages are up, prices are down, our nation is strong, America is respected, and our country is back stronger than ever before. Emma Colton put it this way, that Trump drops the receipts. That's a term that we see used quite a bit in Washington. I don't know if people use it that often in their day-to-day lives, but show them the receipts, meaning that they have the proof. And that's what he was doing yesterday, was to cover what the media refuses to cover by having a national address. I guess the big takeaways were the warrior dividend, which is great right during the holidays, receiving that $1,776 check, the president saying, and the checks are already on their way. Nobody deserves it more than our military, and I say congratulations to everybody. He also touted record enlistment in the military under his leadership, adding that last year under Joe Biden, the military saw some of the worst annual recruitment numbers in our military's history. What a difference the year makes. And he talked about pharmaceuticals and drug prices. He outlined how the Trump RX program and the most favored nation drug pricing will begin taking effect in January. He said, I'm doing what no politician of either party has ever done, standing up to the special interest to dramatically reduce the price of prescription drugs. I negotiated directly with the drug companies and foreign nations to which were taken advantage of our country for many decades to slash prices on drugs and pharmaceuticals by as much as 400, 500, and even 600%. In other words, your drug costs will be plummeting downward, and I use the threat of tariffs to get foreign countries who would never have done it to pay the cost of this giant dollar reduction. They stopped ripping us off, and it began as of 4 days ago. There has never been anything like this in the history of our country. Drugs have only gone up, but now they're going down by the numbers never conceived possible. It's called Most Favored Nation, and no president has ever had the courage or ability to get this done until now. The first of these unprecedented price reductions will be available starting in January through a new website, trumprx.gov, and these big price cuts will greatly reduce the cost of health care. He also talked about bringing the country back from the brink of ruin, making us the hottest country in the world. Again, it's just unfortunate that he had to kind of force the network's hands because they just will not cover him, especially in a fair way. They had to force the hands so that he called a national I wanted to say press conference, but a national address to the nation. He signed off his address claiming the U.S. is respected once again and is the envy of the entire globe, and he wished Americans a Merry Christmas. Our nation is strong, America is respected, and our country is back stronger than ever. We're poised for an economic boom, the likes of which the world has never seen. Soon we will host the World Cup and the Olympics, both of which I got. But most importantly, we will celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Now, when we come back, I'm going to tell you what some of the talking heads had to say to get your opinion on that. We're not going to focus too much more on this because we had really the commentary that we wanted, which was from you. That was in the 6 o'clock hour. But if there's some that didn't get their thoughts on the speech in, please feel free. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the address to the nation because, like I said, we got some great commentary in the last hour, and I appreciate everybody weighing in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Your tap water is delicious. I know, right? It's this Culligan Smart drinking water system. What do you think is going on in there?
I'm smelling a touch of chlorine.
Yeah, I'm detecting some PFAS.
I'm also getting notes of lead.
Perfection.
Sending it up.
Here we go.
Certified to reduce more than 70 contaminants. It's like having your own team of water experts. See the smart difference at Culligan.com.
For a stunning transformation at Croft Lumber, our experienced designers specialize in remarkable kitchen and bath transformations, starting with exceptional cabinetry. Explore our large showroom and find the perfect cabinets to elevate your space, no matter your style or budget. Do you need to update your countertop? We have granite, quartz, and laminate countertop options. Count on Croft Lumber for appliances from GE, Whirlpool, and more. Reimagine your home with Croft Lumber's kitchen, bath, and appliance departments. Visit us online at croftlumber.com.
A child is fighting a critical illness, one truth touches us all. Every child deserves a childhood. A wish sparks a ripple of hope that transforms communities far and wide. And when we grant wishes together, we create a movement of kindness, strength, and unity. Yay! Become a wish maker today and be part of a journey that truly changes lives.
State nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, the Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. Lecom Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. So after the address to the nation, Van Jones was on CNN, and he said, "I'm not scared of that guy. I'm not," meaning Donald Trump. "This is the first time I've seen a Donald Trump I'm not afraid of. He is exaggerating how bad things were. That's okay. He's exaggerating how good things are. That is great for us. That is fantastic. His big threat to Democrats is he was more in touch with ordinary people and everybody else. He had the Democratic elite sitting up here talking big fancy words and coming up with some new things to be worried about every day. And he was right there with the everyday people. This is not how everyday people experience this economy or the country. People are scared. They are worried. They see a bunch of things that are happening that seem completely out of control. They're seeing shootings happening all over the place. He's saying this reverse migration is happening because rather than going after the cartels, these ICE agents are going after nannies and stuff. So the Latin community is backing off. So this is the first time you've seen a Donald Trump. He sounded a little scared. He sounded a little nervous. I don't know. Maybe he was just going too fast. I wouldn't read anything into that. But I think if you're a Democrat who's sitting here tonight biting your nails, is this guy going to kill us, crush us? I think this is a beatable guy next year. I think he proved it tonight. If he stays there, Democrats are going to have a great year. He's going to have to move off of that because right now he just says everything is fantastic. And by the way, if it's not fantastic, blame Biden. That's not going to work. And I think the other thing is going to be important for people to keep in mind. You have a bunch of young people who bet on Donald Trump. They graduate off a cliff into an economy where there is no hope for them. He's not talking to them. You have a bunch of Latin people who bet on Donald Trump and they wanted the bad guys taken out of their neighborhood. There's too much activity going on where normal people are scared. A lot of people bet on Trump, and right now they've got buyer's remorse. If he stays on this message, it's great for Democrats. Now, Mark Kelly's making the rounds lately, huh? The senator from Arizona. He said Trump's speech sounded desperate and defensive. He said, well, initially, I'm like, he's just making stuff up, and he just says a bunch of stuff, and he says this stuff is going to happen. There's no policy there. And I kind of wonder, why is he like so angry and desperate and defensive? Somebody must have showed him some like abysmal poll numbers and said, you better get out there in front of the American people and explain to them why these poll numbers shouldn't be in the toilet. And then I wish somebody would tell him how math works. You know that the prices are going to go down 500 or 600%. Anyone who's been through like the 6th grade by then knows that that is not a thing. Okay. Jamie Raskins, representative from Jamie. Are these all on CNN? No, okay. Mark Kelly was on MSN Now, which used to be MSNBC. Van Jones was on CNN. Jamie Raskins was on CNN. He said on the substance, it was like opposite day in 3rd grade. Why is everybody talking about grade school and things? It was the exact inverse of the truth about everything. I was thinking back to October 19th, 2024, right before the election. And The Economist magazine had a cover story on the U.S. economy. And it said, the envy of the world. And it was talking about how the U.S., which had just surpassed all other developed countries in every measure, whether it was inflation or unemployment or investment infrastructure, and indeed was the envy of the world. And Donald Trump has turned it into ruins. Jamie Raskin. And that's why I saved him for last, because we got to get to Hochul. Jamie Raskins is trying to convince you that our economy was the envy of the world on October 19th, less than a month before the election. October 19th, 2024. Now, we know The Economist was doing that to try to sway the election, trying to be a positive for Democrats. Jamie Raskins wants you to believe that the economy was great under Biden and that Trump is ruining it. He is hoping that people haven't been paying attention. He's hoping that he can rewrite history in real time. That is all this is. But I'll continue with what he said. And this maniac scrambling episode of firing a bunch of phony statistics at people is a reflection of the fact that the country understands it completely, and they understand the president has made a mess out of everything with his terrible unconstitutional tariffs. Then he tries to compensate for the tariffs, ruin its effects on rural Americans by throwing money at farmers. And now he's trying to throw money at soldiers. That's not how you build a strong economy. So now, after 4 years of Biden throwing money at everybody, creating this kind of almost want from young people of socialism, But it caused that inflation. Now, Jamie Raskin says that throwing money at people like Trump is doing is not how you build an economy. The hypocrisy and the twisting themselves up into a pretzel. But again, if you're just joining us, when Biden left office right before the election, less than a month before the election, the economy was the envy, our economy in America was the envy of the world. We had the best statistics we've ever had, and Trump has ruined it. Let's go to break on that note. Then we're going to go to New York State issues. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Everyone knows William Attar. Everyone knows James Cook. But what you probably don't know is that they bonded when Bill suggested to let James cook.
Delicious.
And James said they should just share the number 4.
Nice.
Now they're teaming up to raise money for Build Promise.
Get this t-shirt at BuildPromise.com.
For a limited time, if you purchase this t-shirt, a portion of the proceeds go to Build Promise.
After working to reduce your stroke risk, the initial treatment for AFib is often to stabilize your heart rate, but controlling your heart's rhythm may be just as important for long-term health. Ask your doctor how to get in rhythm and stay in rhythm. Learn more at stopafib.org.
Did you know that children growing up with poor air quality have smaller lungs and higher rates of asthma than children that grow up with good air quality? And unfortunately, poor communities have poor air quality. IQ Air Foundation is working to change this. Today, the IQ Air Foundation provides filtration technology to schools with poor air quality through our Clean Air for Kids program. Our goal is to help over 50,000 school children every year breathe over 90% cleaner air indoors, helping to level the playing field, reduce barriers to learning, reduce sick days, and increase test scores. Mitigating poor air quality is key to environmental justice. Help Clean Air for Kids reach more children at IQAirFoundation.org.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Ken, I agree with your point. Thank you. Noted. Well, we are going to move to New York State issues. Mark writes in, Hochul put a pause on her energy strategy, but my NYSEG bill hasn't gone down. Just saying Trump is trying to give the man a break. Gas, eggs, and mortgage rates are down. It doesn't happen overnight. Well, to your point, I don't want to bring this in. So with your, and if you didn't hear yesterday, Hochul is going to sign the assisted suicide bill. I'm going to talk about that, and I was going to kind of go in a different order, but I think because of your point, Mark, I'm going to start with this. New York State Energy Planning Board is bowing a little to reality. We mentioned this on the program yesterday. Admitting carbon-based fuels are vital for the foreseeable future and pushing to delay their phase-out. Yet the 15-year energy plan the board just adopted, with Governor Hochul's blessing, still imposes heavy green agenda costs to New Yorkers. This is her trying to essentially confuse you before next November's elections. The blueprint recognizes a simple truth, says the governor. Energy policy is economic policy. Our ability to track jobs of the future depends on reliable, affordable, increasingly clean power. The plan, she claims, embraces a much-needed all-of-the-above strategy. Yet it and she still deny many truths. First, this is a some of the above, but no fracking strategy, since the plan doesn't even mention that key method of extracting fuel from the state's gas-rich southern tier. And much of what it leaves in should be scrapped, such as demanding 6 gigawatts of solar energy, several wind power projects, and Hochul's $1 billion sustainable future program to decarbonize buildings and otherwise burn cash in the name of fighting climate change. And that will hit New Yorkers' pocketbooks hard without providing reliable new sources of energy. Nor does the plan change any laws, which dictate deadlines for curbing emissions and switching to renewable energy for electricity. The board's implicit attempt to reset those dates will surely be met with lawsuits from elitist climate warriors who couldn't care less about the cost or the blackout risks. And also, she's got to be careful because she doesn't want to lose that base either. Even though nothing New York does will shift the global climate one iota, and I know we've talked a lot about this with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, nor should anyone trust Hochul to stick with the slight retreat from insanity. Her 2024 pause of the hated congestion toll ended as soon as the elections ended last year. Last year. The new pause comes with utility bills soaring as electricity rates in New York are already 58% higher than the U.S. average, and blackouts looming in advance of her own run for re-election in November, a campaign she means to focus on affordability. Hochul doesn't dare inflict too much pain on the voters before they go to the polls. Afterwards, though, expect affordability to fall right back off of her agenda. Yes, this is her doing yet another U-turn in a career a career, I was reading someone's comment there, a career noted for its U-turns. Very often hurting herself, such as with Zohran Mamdani and her endorsement there, when Zohran Mamdani will not endorse her back as of yet. She very often paints herself into a corner, like she did with congestion pricing, or congestion tolls. Then she says, no, we're not going to do it. Election happens. Then she puts it back in. The same with these extreme green energy policies. Now, I tie this in, and keep those comments coming in. I know I've changed the topic from Trump's address to the nation, but please feel free to continue commenting on them. Now, Hochul has yet again done the wrong thing with just a bit of trying to cover herself, this time in embracing doctor-administrated euthanasia with a few bogus added, quote, safeguards. The governor declared Wednesday that she'll sign into law the medical aid in dying bill that gives state sanction to doctors providing killing medicine to terminally ill patients. Her only conditions being to require the recipient to submit written and recorded oral requests, plus a 5-day waiting period, and sign-offs from a physician that he or she has at the most 6 months to live, and a psychiatric professional on the would-be suicide's mental fitness. It's a Kathy Hochul classic, splitting the difference to make sure nobody gets mad at her, rather than take a principled stand against a horrible idea that, yes, sounds reasonable to most people who don't look closely into it. Sorry, any law that endorses death by doctor is despicable and dangerous. Made fans argue that allowing a dignified exit for someone close to death anyway and suffering acutely is compassionate. Yet get to choose the place, time, and circumstances of your ending. Who could ask for anything more? Sounds so warm and fuzzy, but it's beyond ghoulish in practice. Open the door to assisted suicide, and limits on who's eligible immediately start to evaporate. Canada passed its first assisted suicide law in 2016. By 2021, it had dropped the rule limiting it to those facing a reasonably foreseeable natural death, allowing those with chronic illness and severe disabilities to choose death by doctor. We say choose because that too gets slippery fast. Multiple chilling accounts suggest Canada doctors are nudging patients, especially the poor or disabled, into the final countdown. In a nation with socialized medicine, it saves the government so much money. In 2022, the year right after that reform, MAID became Canada's 5th leading cause of death. Medical assisted suicide, however, medical aid in dying, excuse me. That's what MAID, when I say MAID. That became Canada's 5th leading cause of death. New York's MAID law, by the way, won't even mandate solid record keeping, so voters won't learn how quickly we catch up with our neighbor to the north. Then again, Canada's already racing ahead. In 2027, prescriptions for death will expand again to include mental illnesses, so even perfectly physically healthy young people will get to give up because of conditions like severe depression. So medical assisted suicide for severe depression. Instead of treating the mental or physical illness that makes people suicidal, Canada is joining a handful of European countries in suggesting that maybe they're better off dead. The Netherlands and Belgium have already made death by euthanasia available to terminally ill children. The MAID slope is extra slippery, and the destination is nightmarish. Even before the inevitable expansion, the Hochul-approved version holds gaping flaws. Doctors are often wrong in guessing how long someone has to live and in estimating chances of recovery. People can easily feel pressured into ending their lives early for fear of becoming a financial, emotional, or practical burden on their family. A civilized society tries to prevent suicide, not enable it. Not out of indifferences to suffering, but because life is valuable and worth fighting for. Medical aid in dying turns healers into death dealers and treats ending your own life as medicine. That's reason enough for the legislature to torpedo it rather than give Hochul cover for her macabre betrayal of her duty to serve the people of New York. I don't think this was a surprise for whatever reason. And we had talked about this a while ago in the past. And I think we all kind of assumed that Hochul would sign on to this. It was more that delay that we were questioning. There's so many people that have opinion pieces on this, but I do want to, how am I doing on time? I do want to mention what Joe Sempolinski had to say about it. He released a statement on it. Then we've got an update on Stefanik. We can talk, if you are just joining us, we can talk more about some crazy poll that was shared by a bunch of kind of mainstream media outlets show that AOC would top J.D. Vance in a presidential run. It's a story as old as time when it comes to the media. Just to recap that some polling company who wants to make a name for themselves comes out with some crazy outlier. They put it out, and then the Newsweeks and the different outlets of the world publish it. Then that gives someone like AOC the opportunity to share it, get more coverage of her, and get more speculation on her running for president. So it's a win-win-win for everybody. And at the end of the day, means absolutely nothing, but it's still worth commenting on. So keep those comments coming in. Keep those waves coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. We will be right back.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
New York State nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. Lecom Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
Everyone knows William Attar. Everyone knows James Cook. But what you probably don't know is that they bonded when Bill suggested to let James cook.
Delicious.
And James said they should just share the number 4.
Nice.
Now they're teaming up to raise money for Build Promise.
Get this t-shirt at BuildPromise.com.
For a limited time, if you purchase this t-shirt, a portion of the proceeds go to Build Promise.
Master the modular
airborne firefighting system. We fly assisting the U.S. Forest Service in their firefighting efforts.
Tanker 05, I need a drop on my location.
The fire retardant that we drop establishes a fire containment line so the fire doesn't burn through it.
It helps out the guys on the ground who are actually building trench lines, hand lines.
Outstanding job, 05. Thank you very much.
Most recently, we've had some fires out here in Colorado. We've also been deployed to several other areas, including California.
Saving property, saving lives. Start your adventure.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to a couple viewer comments. Mark writes in, what is the difference having a doctor kill you or putting yourself out? It's all suicide to me. Thank you, Mark. Comment from a different viewer. I've been rereading Trump's address to the nation. I think it's a noteworthy quote when he said, quote, in the end, government either serves the productive, patriotic, hardworking American citizen, or it serves those who break the laws, cheat the system, and seek power and profit at the expense of our nation, end quote. With many politicians going into the system less than millionaires, then emerging as multimillionaires, Trump's words are indisputable and should be heeded if we want to keep the country legit and keep government by the people. Thank you for pointing out that quote. I do appreciate that. It is a great quote. Comment to a different viewer. The problem with doctor-assisted suicide is that it could be easily corrupted. That's kind of was the point that the New York Post was making. To this viewer, it carries a similar feeling to abortion to those that aren't able to give their consent. Yeah, it has. Well, first of all, there's also at the very base level of when a doctor gets trained to become a doctor. Isn't it about doing what's best for the patient? And does that fall under that category? It doesn't. It's not about saving lives. Joe Sempolinski, assemblyman, former congressman, friend of Frankly Speaking. He said it's a tragic day in New York as Governor Hochul announces she will sign the assisted suicide into law. Tragically, said Sempolinski, Governor Hochul has decided to sign assisted suicide into law in the state of New York. This is an abominable decision that I fear will lead to the destruction of the most vulnerable among us, especially the developmentally disabled. Every Republican in the state legislature and many Democrats of conscience voted against this legislation. What a horribly sad, disgraceful day for New York State. The governor is unfit for her office. And we've said that in the past, that she was never supposed to be governor, and she proves it day in and day out. Now, as ranking member of the Assembly Mental Health Committee and a member of the People with Disabilities Committee, Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski is a steadfast defender of the disabled and those with intellectual and developmental disabilities. During the legislative session, Assemblyman Sempolinski spoke out against the assisted suicide bill, arguing that the assisted suicide law will result with the disabled and chronically ill being coerced into choosing medically assisted suicide. Now, if you don't know about Joe, his daughter, JoJo, has Down syndrome and multiple congenital heart defects. He said he can sadly now envision a future where one day a medical provider may convince JoJo as an adult to end her life. Quote, as the father of a daughter with a developmental disability, I fear that legalized assisted suicide will eventually be abused to harm the disabled. I can see a day when someone will induce, trick, or coerce my daughter into killing herself. Once this option is created, it will be abused. The terminally ill need access to quality hospice and palliative care, but the answer is not suicide. I stand for life. Thank you, Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski. I thought that was a powerful message and one that I wanted to pass along to you. Andrea Pizer, and by the way, there was a lot of different back and forth on this. Some saying that they think it was a huge victory for New York. Others saying that it's a scary, slippery slope waiting to happen. Governor Hochul, if you want to, you can go to Empire Report or the Albany Times-Union, and she did an op-ed on this saying why I support medical aid in dying. She said, I'm grateful to the advocates, families, and legislative supporters. This is Governor Hochul now, especially bill sponsors, Senator Brad Holman Siegel and Assemblyman Amy Pollin, Assemblymember Amy Paulin, who worked hard to make this happen in a thoughtful and responsible way. And I hope those who are disappointed by this outcome know that this was a difficult decision for me personally. It was not made lightly. It was guided by a genuine and deeply held belief that government must respect the rights and will of the people it serves. I hope that those who oppose this legislation will be able to look with compassion on those who may make a choice they would not make for themselves. And isn't that at heart what the choice and freedom our young nation promised its people 250 years ago is all about? So 250 years ago, somehow, to Governor Hochul, this nation was promised the opportunity for government-assisted or doctor-assisted suicide? Is that the American dream? This is what I mean. She tries too hard. That's what this all boils down to. I gotta read that again because I can't wrap my mind around it. I hope those who oppose this legislation will be able to look with compassion on those who may make a choice they would not make for themselves. And isn't that, at heart, what the choice and freedom our young nation promised its people 250 years ago is all about? Never mind that it's just kind of a choppy statement, a confusing statement. Isn't that, at heart, what the choice and freedom our young nation promised its people 250 years ago is all about? Can anybody explain that to me? I don't want to go. That's her op-ed. You can find that for yourself at Albany Times Union. It's about 4 or 5 pages ago. Oh, I guess it started with the Founding Fathers. Maybe that's what that meant. So 2.5 centuries ago, our Founding Fathers established a vision of a country based on limited government, and coming from the New York State governor about limited government. Now she's touting limited government. Interesting. And broad individual rights. Again, New York State governor Kathy Hochul talking about individual rights and limited government. Interesting. That together protect rights of speech, worship, privacy, and bodily autonomy. Proudly, New York has long led the fights championing the rights of individuals, from civil rights to labor rights, LGBTQ rights, women's rights, and reproductive rights. In the true spirit of this country, government has a responsibility to protect, not interfere with an individual's deeply personal decisions. Unless, of course, that decision is to what? Own a gun, practice your faith as a Christian, protect the most vulnerable. I can't read any more of that. That's Governor Hochul trying hard to sell something that at face value sounds very difficult to sell. Andrea Pizer says, in the season of joy, the Christmas season, the season of joy, the Grim Reaper is hovering. Kathy Hochul announced the Medical Aid in Dying Act. This means New York next month is to join 12 states and the District of Columbia, where one can legally off him or herself with doctor support and a massive barbiturate overdose. Right to die ghouls are cheering. So that is one of the rights our founders believed in. The right to die, according to Governor Kathy Hochul. And so we go back to what Joe Semplinsky said. She is unfit to serve. She is trying to equate the freedom we are given in this country, all the freedom that so many have died for, shed blood for, our freedoms. One of those, and our founding fathers' dream for this nation, was the right to assisted suicide. Because isn't that at the heart what our country is all about? According to Governor Hochul, who now is a big supporter of individual rights and less government. All right. While legalized suicide is sold to the masses as a compassionate solution to a terminal diagnosis, in practice, there's little empathetic about this soon-to-be law. Instead, the pressure on people to kill themselves has shifted into high gear. The governor has come to this wrong decision for all the right reasons. She watched her mother die from ALS, and that was a part of her speech. or part of her op-ed. New York has long been a beacon of freedom, and now it's time we extend that freedom to terminally ill New Yorkers who want the right to die comfortably and on their own terms. I am all too familiar with the pain of seeing someone you love suffer and being powerless to stop it. Although this was an incredibly difficult decision, I ultimately determined that with the additional guardrails agreed upon with the legislature, this bill would allow New Yorkers to suffer less, to shorten not their lives but their deaths. The reality, however, is altogether different. Life, you see, could be more costly than the alternative. In 2016, this again, Andrea Pizer, interviewed a California mom of 4, Stephanie Packer, diagnosed in 2012 at the age of 29 with a chronic autoimmune disease that causes scar tissue to form in her lungs. The doctor told her she had 3 years to live. When she learned she could extend her life with a form of chemotherapy, her medical insurance company denied her claim, but a representative offered her a cheaper alternative, life-ending drugs. So, you can't get the chemotherapy, but we'll give you the life-ending drugs. The copay just $1.20. She said, my jaw dropped. Packer refused to take her own life and instead fought for survival, but found little support for anything but her hasty demise. After threatening to go to the media, her insurer relented and approved the chemo. 13 years after her 3-year death sentence, she's still breathing. Divorced after her grim prognosis, she is remarried and has spoken out widely against physician-assisted suicide. The new law is supposed to protect those who probably shouldn't die from making unalterable decisions by enacting safeguards, including requiring death candidates to undergo mental health evaluations and in-person visits by physicians. But I see nothing in the statute that saves people who've simply gone along with this race off a cliff. I fear we are going down a slippery slope. In some countries, it doesn't take a deadly disease for someone to qualify for legal suicide. In Belgium, for example, a severely depressed 24-year-old woman received government approval to obtain a lethal injection. The woman reportedly changed her mind and decided to live. We must stop this lunacy and quit pushing death. A few other things on this when we come back. I see a lot of comments, a lot of waves coming in. Keep them coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
More cars, lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
Having a safe home is essential to many aspects of our lives. From a sense of community and safety, to physical and mental health, to economic security and independence. Most homes in our communities are not accessible and are not designed to accommodate the changes that come with age, including the risk of falling. The Older Adults Home Modification Program helps reduce the risk of falls, improves safety, and increases accessibility and independence. Through this program, Rebuilding Together works with older adults to provide no-cost preventative home repairs so our neighbors can safely age in place in the homes and communities they love. To learn more, visit rebuildingtogether.org/safeathome.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Let's go to some viewer comments. Rick writes in, good morning, Frank. Good morning, Rick. Poor Donald, the sky is falling, so he gets on national TV so he can lie about all of his wonderful things he's done. That didn't take him long to totally destroy his second term. We'll see how much longer his nose gets in 15 minutes. Nobody has ever seen anything like it. Well, right off the Big Bang, inflation was at 3% January 20th, and it is at 3% today, maybe different tomorrow. He says, Rick says the world is laughing at America. 0 illegal aliens across the southern border, but greater than 80% of drugs into America come across the southern border. But he's going after Venezuela. Donald did not stop 8 wars. He's lying. $18 trillion investment, but unemployment climbs to 4.6%, the highest in 4 years. I can't take it. All hail the king, King Donald, the greatest ever. One question, why are all his numbers negative? I'm still shaking my head. Hey, good job on drug prices. I don't know if you're being sarcastic about the drug prices or not, but maybe you are. I don't know. I don't know how to read that last one. All right, comment from a different viewer. Most definitely a slippery slope. This is in reference to the Medical Aid in Dying Act that Governor Hochul is going to sign into law, essentially doctor-assisted suicide. Enable suicide for the depressed. This is really disturbing to me. Thank you very much. Mark writes in, well, let me save Mark's for the last one. Comment from a different viewer. Sure, save money for state, for the poor, for the people on government assistance, just like Cuomo and nursing homes. Yeah, that's what the slippery slope on this. Canada uses it as a money saver, where they'll say, well, you can have this medical treatment for a long time or have to do it. Why don't you just take the pills? It's ghoulish is the right word. Mark writes in, I'll make it clear for you, for everybody watching, he says. I'll make it clear for everyone. Hochul is wacky, and we need Elise Stefanik as our new governor. Thank you very much. We're going to talk about Elise Stefanik in just a moment. Response to Hochul's decision, some saying it's a monumental victory, others saying it's extraordinarily troubling. New York's Catholic bishops, still led by Cardinal Timothy Dolan. He's, because of an age limit there, he is, you may know him from the dinners around presidential election time. He is stepping down. He has to resign because of an age limitation. I just read that the other day. He released a statement saying, we are extraordinarily troubled by Governor Hochul's announcement that she will sign the erroneous bill passed by the legislature earlier this year, sanctioning physician-assisted suicide in New York State. This new law signals our government's abandonment of its most vulnerable citizens, to that viewer's point, just like Cuomo did. Telling people who are sick or disabled that suicide in their case is not only acceptable, but is encouraged by our elected leaders. Tragically, this new law will seriously undermine all of the anti-suicide and mental health care investments Governor Hochul's made through her tenure. How can any society have credibility to tell young people or people with depression that suicide is never the answer, while at the same time telling elderly and sick people that it is a compassionate choice to be celebrated? While physician-assisted suicide will soon be legal here in New York, we must clearly reiterate that it is in direct conflict with Catholic teaching on the sacredness and dignity of all human life from conception until natural death, and is a grave moral evil on par with other direct attacks on human life. We call on Catholics and all New Yorkers to reject physician-assisted suicide for themselves, their loved ones, and those in their care. And we pray that our state turn away from its promotion of a culture of death and invest instead in life-affirming, compassionate hospice and palliative care, which is seriously underutilized. I'm not going to go through, obviously, there are groups and organizations that support this, doctor-assisted suicide. There are others that think it's a disgrace on our state. I would lean towards that. The state Republican Party Chairman Ed Cox said Governor Hochul's decision to sign the assisted suicide bill is a profound moral failure. At a moment when New Yorkers are struggling with isolation and mental health crises, she is choosing to tell the most vulnerable among us that their lives are expendable. This is not compassion, it's abandonment. True leadership defends life, dignity, and hope even when it's hard. New Yorkers have a clear moral alternative in Elise Stefanik, a leader who believes every life has value and who will fight relentlessly for families, the disabled, and the voiceless. The contrast could not be clearer. We got to take our last break, wrapping things up. Get your comments in.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
It's 10 p.m. somewhere. Do you know what your kids are doing online? Brought to you by Ferrario Jeep.
There have always been a few ready to fight and win. Since 1775, these few have been Marines, and they come from across this land to defend the future of our nation. This year, our Corps celebrates 250 years, and Marines are proud to serve this country, each other, and all that is still to come for America.
What's our stories? The warmth of our laugh.
or our family's secret sauce. We all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/team up.
You're watching Big Fox, WYDC TV.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street in Corning. Ken writes in, assisted suicide is a complicated issue. I've worked all my life in an attempt to provide a decent life for my family, not just while I'm alive, but hopefully continuing after my death, just like my dad had hoped. I watched my mom, dad, and brother waste away in a nursing home for years. For a short time, they knew where they were, and it was heartbreaking. When they asked when they could go home, since the state had already taken most of their assets to pay for the Medicaid coverage, there was no money left to even try to take care of them at home. It was a godsend that eventually they didn't know where they were. Much better for them, but our entire family grieved for years. I agree that there can be a huge abuse, and there needs to be oversight from a nonpartisan committee to try and ensure it isn't abused. If I had a choice, if I was terminal, I would choose it in a heartbeat. Thank you, Ken. Thank you for that. Before we go, we are out of time. Mark writes, only 1 week till Christmas. Have a great day. Yes, have a great day, everyone. And I know that just made a lot of people very anxious, myself included. Yes, 1 week to accomplish everything. Where are you at in the process? There's a piece, we can't get to all the details on it, but Stefanik hit Hochul yesterday for a curriculum in New York City schools that is Qatar funded and teaches material that allegedly twists the history of 9/11. This is being taught in New York schools, including material that she believes distorts the history of the September 11, 2001 terrorist attack. She wrote, the New York City Department of Education has refused to provide copies of teaching material that twists the narratives of September 11th terror attack and the Hamas-led massacre on October 7, 2023 in Israel. She raised concerns about curriculum and other content funded by Qatar and teaching material from malign domestic actors that could give students a distorted view of 9/11. We don't have time to get into all of it. And yes, AOC responded to the poll that said that she would beat J.D. Vance in a presidential race with the word bloop, I guess just to draw attention. Wow, we covered a lot this morning. Thanks for joining us. Join us every weekday morning starting at 6 for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV. Big Fox, we will see you tomorrow morning bright and early. I look forward to it already.
You don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tubs and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.